All right, guys. Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 24th, 2017. It's 10:30 a.m. New York time, and just making a quick follow-up video. I made one last night on the Canadian dollar, how it was looking then, and as I mentioned last night, at that point when I made the video, we were still about 12 hours from the news, so I certainly was not completely sold on my view at that point. However, I will say leading into the news, I still was fairly confident that it would be negative for the Canadian just based on the pattern. However, and this is just to show again the power of the fundamentals, and that they really, you really have to pay attention to this and not go strictly by any chart patterns, because this is the thing. So the Bank of Canada, I'm on forexlive.com. Bank of Canada holds rates at 0.5 as expected. But then here's the summary of the rate statement. And, I'm not going to read all these bullet points. You can go and read them if you're interested. But basically, it has a bullish tilt to it. Global economy continues to gain traction. These are the big ones here. Recent economic data have been encouraging. Consumer spending and housing continue to be robust. Very strong growth in the first quarter, although they are calling for moderation in the second quarter. So overall, it was fairly optimistic, although it started off kind of negative, saying that inflation still remains low and wage growth still subdued, and that uncertainty still remained. But then they came in with some positive bullets, and the market really kind of focused on that. And so if you look at the charts, here's the Canadian Swiss, and now last night I had this labeled, as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, I will say that even though here's the reaction, the Canadian going up. Now I will say this still looks to me like a correction. I mean, the sideways sloppy, for it to be going up like this, it's very unusual after this type of pattern. I mean, this is usually, the news will come out, this will end this correction, it'll go down. But as you can see, it's going up pretty strong. This is the 2-hour chart. I'm just looking at this while we're talking. So, again, I still see this as, here we are on the 3-hour, that this is still a correction, because I don't see a wave 4 and wave 5 down here anywhere. This whole move down from basically from here to here looks like the wave 3, and then this is wave 4, and this still could be the wave 4. Now I'm certainly not going to jump on a moving freight train and go short right here, but at least the initial reaction was positive. But as I did state last night, though, guys, the Canadian dollar can be a very tricky pair to trade, and it can definitely have a second look. And I said it last night, that often what you see is the news will come out, it'll go in one direction for a few hours, and then it'll turn and go back, on kind of a second look. Now I'm not saying that's going to happen here. This could just continue to go straight up and not look back, but I'm still, from a pattern standpoint, I'm still looking at this as being a correction right in here, and that this is just kind of the last move up of the correction. But like I said, it's pretty strong right now. So Euro Canadian, although I wasn't going to trade this anyways, kind of the same thing. We were thinking that this move down was going to be the end of a correction, and it would go up. As you can see, it's still going down. This is basically an ABC, and then it's going to go back up. And again, it might still do that. It's just stretching out a little bit. Canadian yen, same thing. I was looking at this as basically as a wave 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it would go down. But you can see that's going up pretty strong right now too. And zooming out a little bit, this really can't be a wave 4 anymore. It's a cardinal rule of Elliott that wave 4 cannot retrace back into the area of wave 2. So if you've got, let me just label this so you see what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3. This cannot be what I just drew here. 1, 2, 3, 4, because wave 4, this is a cardinal rule with Elliott that cannot be broken. Wave 4 cannot go into the area of wave 2 or 1. So it really, the fact that it's in this area now, that it broke above this high, is not acceptable. And so that's an incorrect labeling. Probably what the correct labeling is, though, and again, doesn't mean this won't go down, because if you go down to a lower time frame, then this was probably the trend. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I measured this actually before the news came out, and this wave 1 is exactly the length as this wave 5. I think it was like 115 pips or something. So we could just be into a very deep retracement here. And if we measure this out, you know, we've already broken well over the 78.6, but you know, unless it takes out the 100%, unless it takes out this high, then this is not necessarily invalidated as a correction. Okay, so and the last one is the pound Canadian. Pound Canadian. I think I drew a horizontal. I thought I had a horizontal line on here. Anyways, on the pound Canadian, that we thought this would stretch out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That this is the C. This is the wave C of this correction. So we have, this was the high off the old uptrend, and this is the wave B up, and then this is the wave C down. So A, B, C. Okay, and if that's the case, let's measure out this wave. So this is wave C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is the wave C down. So after a wave C completes, that the pattern would go back up. Okay, in this case. So let's measure this out. This is 265 pips. So a general rule, this is not a hard fast rule, that wave 1 and 5 would be the same length. This right now is only sitting at 177. So this would have to go down another, you know, another 90 pips or so to somewhere into this range before this would turn back up. So this probably has some more to go, probably back to the 173 area on the pound Canadian, somewhere around here before this would turn back up, potentially. All right. And again, this is not a hard fast rule, but if you're looking for a target for a reversal, it would be somewhere in this area. So I'd expect that this will continue to drift down today, and then potentially at that point we'd see the reversal back up, because I still do think that this whole move down is just a correction to this uptrend. But again, as I stated, guys, the Canadian dollar is famous for these kind of moves. It kind of fakes you out. Now I want to show you one more chart. Now this one, so here you go. This is the Kiwi Canadian. This is the 1 hour chart, and this one is obvious. So, and this is the one, you know, unfortunately I really wasn't looking at this pair, and I should have, because I would have had a much more clear picture. This is a perfect 5-wave trend up, and so this move down is a end of the trend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The news came out. Canadian news is positive. Now we're heading straight down. Okay, so this is the end of a trend on the Kiwi Canadian. So had I seen that, which I really wasn't looking at this pair, I gotta be honest with you, because I was going to look at Kiwi pairs later today because of the Kiwi news tonight. So I just wasn't looking at it. I just want to look at this on different time frames. Yeah, I mean, this, you know, this could easily just continue down. But again, there's Kiwi news coming out tonight, which is could have the potential to be quite negative. So this could just be, you know, the Kiwi just weakening anyways. Let me look at some other Kiwi pairs here. Look at the Kiwi Swiss. That's also going down. So I think some of this is being driven by the Kiwi, not necessarily just that. In this case with the Kiwi Canadian, it's getting added momentum from the strength of the Canadian. But you can see the Kiwi Swiss is also going down. Kiwi yen, well, that's a yen pair. The Kiwi dollar probably isn't doing much. It's going down a little. But the Kiwi, the dollar is pretty weak, so I don't expect a lot of momentum with this one. So anyways, guys, I think that's what's driving a lot of this Kiwi Canadian is not only the Canadian dollar strength, but just overall Kiwi weakness. So that one you have to take a little grain of salt, but still would be a good trade if you're in it. But like I said, these moves are pretty strong right now, but I still would kind of keep an eye out for eventually a second reaction to this Canadian news. It may not be today. We may continue to move up today, but perhaps tomorrow during the during the London session tomorrow, perhaps we end this correction and we start to turn back down. I'm still going to keep an eye on it, but like I said, guys, this is a very classic action for the Canadian dollar. Kind of a lot of head fakes, a lot of initial reaction to the news, and then an opposite follow-up reaction at some point, whether it be within a couple hours or a day later. So I mean, this is pulling back a little bit right now. I certainly still wouldn't, obviously I'm not going short on this strong up move, but I would keep an eye on this and let's see what happens. If it continues up and it makes any momentum and gets anywhere up around this area where it comes into this wave one, comes back into this area right here, like I said, this is a cardinal rule that you cannot get into this area here. So if it goes another 35 pips to the upside, then that would invalidate this. But so long as it stays around where it is now, it can go a little higher, then this wave 4 is not necessarily invalidated as a correction. Okay, so I can't really draw out an ABC here, but it still basically has the shape of a correction. And if it does eventually turn back down, this is just going to make this an even better trade, because instead of going short from here, now you're going short from here, and you're going to have more room for it to fall to the downside. So anyways, guys, that's it. Just want to make that follow-up video. And like I said last night, this was subject to change based on the action this morning, and clearly that's what happened. But as I also said, the CAD is notorious for messing with you like this, and can be a little frustrating if you traded it. So I did have a trade on this. I took a short before the news came out. I already exited as soon as it took out this high. I was out. So I'm just going to stay on the sideline now, and I'm just going to watch it. And I'm honestly not looking to go long on this pair, on the Canadian dollar. I still think the fundamentals for the Canadian are still negative. I think even though they struck a kind of optimistic tone, there were some negative things in their statement. Plus, I think crude oil is still going to be a big focus, and crude oil prices, I think, are still going to come down, which will negatively impact the Canadian. So although they got a little bit of a reprieve today, we'll see where it goes. So that's it, guys. Maybe I'll make another follow-up if this does end up turning back down. But I hope you got to watch the one last night and watch this one and get an idea of, again, the importance of the fundamentals, and not just following a pattern blindly, and knowing what's going on in the fundamentals. And you can clearly see that right here on Forex Live. This is why this is one of these pages you have to look at. So these guys do a great job of summarizing all this information. So all right, guys, so that's it. I hope you have a good rest of the day. We do have FOMC minutes coming up this afternoon, so that could be something for the dollar, but my eyes are more turned towards the Kiwi news later, about 10 o'clock New York time tonight, on their budget release. So we're going to look at the Kiwi pairs later and see what they're looking like for when that news comes out. All right, guys, but in the meantime, have a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon.